All right. So let me tell you about myself. I'm Raman, and I was working as a QA manager with one of the software MNC in India, Gurgaon. So right now I'm into training. I am into Selenium from past 3.5 years, and that's it. So if everyone is able to hear me and able to see my screen so that we can get started. So let's talk about the WebEx session first. On the session, you can see a chat window over there. If you have any questions, any queries, you can just type them in the chat window. Else you can see a raise hand option over there. So if you need to, if you have any queries, you can also raise your hand and you can unmute your mic and you can talk to me directly, right? So during the training, your mic would be on mute because there are many people on the training that, just 1 second. I can see from Lee that she cannot see my screen. Are you guys able to see my screen? Okay. Shiva say yes. And okay. Yeah, yes, all right. So, Lee, can you check your system? I think everyone else is able to see the screen. All right. Okay, everyone else is able to see. All right. Okay, so let's start with the training. If you have any questions before we start, you can ask them now related to the webinar session, related to the meeting, related to the training that we're going to conduct, related to the course content. Any question that you want to ask, you can ask it right now.
Raman, Prabodh here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabodh, I can hear you.
Okay. Just a suggestion. Before you start the training, I will see the course details.
You want to see the course content?
Right.
Okay. So you can visit my website, that is waytoautomation.com, right? And on over here, you can go to this section. And here you can find, various topics that I have covered. So there are some topics in core Java, IDE, RC, WebDriver, TestNG, JUnit, Java Framework. These are, the list of topics that are covered in the video tutorial. But I cannot cover all the topics in the online training because there is very less time to cover all this. So total course duration would be around 5 to 6 weekends. So what I will be covering in the course content, I will be covering your Java part. I'll be covering RC and WebDriver. Our major focus will be on WebDriver because this is what in the market. RC is obsolete now. It's been deprecated, right? So RC we will be learning just to cover up the basics. Rest, the focus will only be on WebDriver. Then we'll cover 2 Java frameworks, that is TestNG, JUnit, and for automation framework, we will be covering page object model using Page Factory. So this will be our course content for the online training. Right. So rest, you will be getting access to these videos. So So you can go through the videos and cover the topics, the rest of the topics. And if you have any questions, you can ask to me personally or you can mail me regarding that. All right?
Yes, it's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? So anyone else have any question related to the training? Okay, in that case, we shall start with the training now. So before we start with Selenium, first of all, I would like to tell you what exactly is Selenium. So I'll be I was asking this thing a lot of time in my training, that what exactly is Selenium, and the answer that I got from many people that Selenium is an automation tool. Selenium can automate browsers. Selenium supports various browsers like IE, Firefox, Chrome, and Opera. It supports various languages, PHP, C#, Java, Python, right? So these are the sort of answers that I was hearing from people when I asked this question. Basically, Selenium, if I talk about what exactly is Selenium, Selenium is not an automation tool. Right. So it's not a tool that you can download on your machine like QTP or RFT, which you can just double-click and it will be installed on your machine. It will provide you a platform where you can record and play, where you can do some scripting part. No, it's nothing like that. Selenium is not a tool that you can install on your machine. If Selenium is not a tool, then what exactly is Selenium? Well, Selenium is an API. Now, what exactly is an API? So I believe everyone must be aware with the full form of an API, that is Application Programming Interface. Now, what exactly is Application Programming Interface and what is there inside an Application Programming Interface? So I'll explain you this in detail. Let's say, let's take up a live scenario. Let's say I am a Java developer, right? I am working on a project of a calculator, right? Like I have been given a task to design a calculator, and what I'm doing in that calculator, I have various functionalities available. Functionalities like in calculator, I have an option to add things, I have an option to subtract things, I have an option to multiply things, and there are n number of functionalities available in this calculator. So for each functionality, I have created a different function for them, right? So in Java, we call functions as a method. So for every functionality, for addition, I have created one method. For subtraction, I have created another method, and same way for all the functionalities in calculator, I have created different methods. Now, what I have done, I have kept all those methods inside one class and given the name of that class as calculator, right? Now, what I've done out of that calculator program, I have generated a jar file. So what exactly is a jar file? Jar file is exactly that API. Just 1 second. All right. Sure. Just so I've generated a jar file out of that code that I have written. In this jar file, this contains my entire Java project that I have created. So I have created a class called calculator, and in that calculator, I have created all the methods which covers the entire functionality of a calculator. Now, on the other hand, you are also a Java developer, right? You are also a Java developer, and you have given a task to, let's say, write a code to, let's say you are working on a banking domain. and you have assigned a task to add the annual salaries of an employee. So in order to add the annual salaries of an employee, what you need to do, you need to create another addition method, right? Now, one way is that either you can import the jar file that I have created in your project, and you can get the addition method from the jar file that I have created, right? Or you can create the addition method by your own, right? So which is the better way? The better way is that I have already implemented that addition method. You are just importing that addition method in your project, and you are just accessing the functionality that I have written inside that addition method. So if we talk about Selenium, Selenium is the same thing. Selenium is one of the Java projects that ThoughtWorks company came up with. So there's a company named ThoughtWorks. They came up with these two components, Selenium IDE and Selenium RC. So basically there are four components of Selenium. So ThoughtWorks came up with these two components, that is IDE and RC. IDE for record and play, and RC for the coding part. Now what they have done, if we talk about features of IDE, IDE is an add-on to Firefox, plus it's a good tool for record and play. So most of the people who start with Selenium, the very first thing that they do is they download this plugin. This is basically an add-on to Firefox. They download this plugin and they do some record and play. Whatever the steps that you perform on a website, those steps will get recorded, and there is a play button, then you can play those steps, right? So this IDE is only for record and play. It's a very small component. There are some disadvantages of using IDE, that you cannot implement frameworks, you cannot handle large projects using IDE, right? Ultimately, what you have to do, whatever that you have recorded in IDE, you have to export that code and you have to use it either through RC or through WebDriver, right? So then we talk about the second component, that is Selenium RC. So this component was completely designed, the API was completely designed in Java. So how this component works, there are many features of RC. It supports multiple browsers like IE, browsers like Chrome, Opera, Safari, right? And it supports multiple languages as well. Languages like PHP, C#, Python, Perl. But again, it doesn't mean that if your application is built up in PHP, then you're learning PHP to automate it. Then again, if it is built up in C#, then you're learning again C# to automate it. It doesn't mean that, right? So no matter in which language your application is designed, you only need to know one language in order to automate your website. So in case of Selenium, Java is the more compatible language. 90% of the companies are using Selenium with Java. The reason behind that, Selenium is open source and Java is also open source, right? The other thing is that Java is platform independent. So if the code of Java is written on Windows, it can be executed in Linux, it can be executed on Mac, and any other operating system that supports Java. So same is the case with Selenium as well. If the code is written in Windows, it can be executed in Linux, Mac, Solaris, and like whatever operating system that supports Java, it will gonna work on that, right? Plus, if we talk about Selenium, Selenium core was completely dependent on JavaScript. So if we talk about the architecture of Selenium RC, how ThoughtWorks has designed it. So Selenium RC injects JavaScript on your browser to locate the element. Let's suppose you need to click on any link on a web page, right? So in order to click on that particular link, you first need to find some of the property of that link. A property could be a text on that link. A property could be the location of that link on your browser, on your web page, right? It could be ID of that link, right? So in order to locate that particular link, Selenium RC injects JavaScript on your browser. This is how the Selenium RC core was designed. It injects JavaScript, and there are some challenges that were faced when this JavaScript injection happened. The challenges that were faced is that, one, the JavaScript makes the execution slower. And secondly, it is not supported on many browsers that blocks third-party JavaScript execution. Like if you talk about IE, if I open the IE, on IE, many times you see that there is a yellow triangle at the bottom of IE. Now this yellow triangle is basically a JavaScript alert. Now why this alert is there? Because because IE does not allow any JavaScript to be executed onto its browser. Because this is a really this is a highly secured browser. So if you go to the settings option, you go to internet option, and you go to security tab, you can see that there are some protected modes available over here. If you uncheck these protected modes, then you will be able to execute your Selenium RC code on IE. Then you will be able to, then Selenium RC will be able to inject the JavaScript on this browser. But as soon as you remove all the security parameters, the websites that have HTTPS certificates, that have SSL certificates, that will gonna stop working. Right. So these were the challenges, and these are not the only challenges that were faced in Selenium RC, due to which Selenium RC got deprecated and WebDriver has been replaced with the same. So ThoughtWorks came up with ID and RC, and WebDriver was a part of a separate company, of a separate group. WebDriver was launched by a person called Simon Stewart, and he is actually working as a lead developer with Google. Right. So WebDriver was actually a product of Google. So whatever challenges that were faced in Selenium RC, Simon Stewart has overcome all those challenges in WebDriver. Now, how he has overcome all these challenges? He has completely removed the JavaScript injection in WebDriver. So if we talk about the features of WebDriver, features remain the same. It supports all the browsers, all multiple languages, multiple operating systems. But the only difference in WebDriver is that now WebDriver is not supporting any JavaScript injection. So when we used to work in Selenium RC, when it used to inject JavaScript, we need to start a standalone server on our local machine in order to support that JavaScript. So in WebDriver, there is no JavaScript injection, so there is no server required. There is no need of server. Plus, if we go to the main website of Selenium, that is seleniumhu.org. This is the main website of Selenium. Over here, you can see that Selenium, that's it. So Selenium is only for browser-based testing. Just one second, guys. All right. So Selenium is only for the browser-based testing. It cannot handle desktop-based application. It cannot handle any standalone application. And these days, 90% of the applications are web-based, because this is the time of cloud computing. So that is the reason Selenium is gaining its importance day by day, because the one thing is that it is completely backed by Google as well. So whatever development that is going on, it's only going on in WebDriver, and Google developers are working on the same. Right? Just 1 minute, guys. So on the same website, if you see over here, Selenium WebDriver, they have already mentioned this thing that WebDriver is the successor of Selenium RC, which has been officially deprecated, right? So there is no reason to learn Selenium RC as of now. But there are still some companies who are still working on Selenium RC. Their projects are already built in Selenium RC and they are maintaining the same project. So there might be a scenario in interviews, you might face questions from RC and WebDriver both. But ultimately, everyone has to migrate to WebDriver, and 90% of the companies you will find are working on WebDriver. So our focus will majorly on WebDriver only, but we're still going to see some examples on Selenium RC just to cover your base, just to set up your base for automation, because RC is very easy to learn, whereas in compared to WebDriver, WebDriver is a bit complex, right? So if you go to the download section of this page, and if you go to the Java doc, so over here you can search for Selenium. So this is Selenium. This is exactly Selenium, what they came up with. Selenium is an interface, and Selenium interface is implemented by these two classes. So initially, when they designed Selenium, I mean, in case we are working with Selenium RC, we are going to work on this class, default Selenium. Now, what is interface? What is a class? How to create a class? I will be teaching you everything, but for the time being, just take it as it is and just try to understand the concept. So I'll be explaining you in detail what exactly is interface and how you can implement it, right? So they, in case we are working on Selenium RC, then there is only one class available. If I click on this class, so in this class, they have implemented various methods which I will be using in order to automate my application. In order to automate the application, I will be using all these methods. There are some methods like click. So if I use this method, I will be able to click on a link, click on a button, checkbox, or onto a radio button. Right. Same way, there are other methods like double click, drag and drop, and get title, get location will give the current URL. I mean, there are n number of methods that are available over here, which I will be using in order to automate my website, right? So these are the only methods that they have provided, and they have given the class name as default Selenium. And in case you talk about WebDriver, there is another API for WebDriver that is over here. WebDriver is also an interface, and what they have done in WebDriver, for every browser, they have created a different class. So when Simon Stewart has realized the challenges ThoughtWorks has faced in Selenium RC, so to overcome all these challenges, what Simon Stewart has done in his WebDriver project, he has created different classes for all the browsers. So now these classes individually are interacting with that particular browser. So JavaScript injection is no more there, right? So how WebDriver works? WebDriver directly interacts with the native browser code of or the native class of that particular browser. So for every browser, they have implemented a separate class. So in case you need to work on IE, then there is a class called Internet Explorer Driver. This is the one. In case you need to work on Chrome, then there is another class that is Chrome Driver. And in case you need to work, even for Android and iPhone based, they have created these drivers which you can use, and you can open the simulator of Android and iPhone, and you can execute your websites over there. You can open your website on the Android and iPhone based devices, right? But it doesn't mean that you will be able to handle the standalone applications of Android and iPhone. You will only be able to automate your browser. That's it, right? So next step we talk about. WebDriver comes with a huge set of API. In RC, in default Selenium, you have seen that there is only one class. In RC, there is only one class that is named as default Selenium. Whereas in WebDriver, we have so many classes available over here. Not only these classes, this is the whole. This is the huge list of WebDriver classes and interface that are implemented through WebDriver. Right. So yes, Priyanka, I'll be sharing the videos as well. All right. So this is completely object-oriented. WebDriver is completely object-oriented. So in order to work on WebDriver, your core Java should be very strong. There is no requirement of advanced Java. Only you need to clear your basics. That's it. Only you need to be very good in core Java in case you want to work on WebDriver. In RC, if you have just the basic knowledge, you can still work on RC. So we'll initially start with RC so that I will be able to set up your base for automation. And as soon as I jump onto WebDriver, you will be easily able to understand all the concepts. All right. So the last component of Selenium is Selenium Grid. Now, what exactly is Grid? So let's say if in my whole project, I have 500 test cases, right? And in my intranet, I have 4 machines available. I have like 4 desktops over here. So one desktop, I can make it as a hub. I can make my one desktop as a hub and other 3 machines as a node, right? Now what I can do, I can execute all of my test case from one machine and it will be executed parallelly on all 3 machines. So if I have 500 test cases to execute, I can also distribute my test case on these machines. Like machine 1 will run 200 test case, machine 2 will run 100 test case, and then machine 3 will run 200 test case. I can even distribute my test case, right? Plus, on these 3 machines, I can have different operating systems, like machine 1 can have Windows, machine 2 can have Linux, and machine 3 can have Mac. And same way, they can also have different browsers as well. Like on Windows, I can have IE. On Linux, I can have Firefox. On Mac, I can have Safari or Firefox, right? And with the help of this grid, I can distribute my test cases onto multiple machines for parallel or for sequential execution, right? So this is what a Selenium grid is, right? Now, then comes some add-ons, which we're going to learn with Selenium, that is some Java framework, that is JUnit, TestNG. So I can either use a JUnit or TestNG in my Selenium project. So I cannot have both frameworks running in the same project, right? Basically, these 2 are the Java frameworks. So, and data-driven, keyword, hybrid, and page object model. These are basically the automation framework. Now, what exactly is the difference in automation framework or a Java framework? Let's say in my project, I have 4 scripts over here. So I have script 1, I have script 2, script 3, and script 4. In my script 1, I have automated my login window. Let's say I'm entering a username, password, clicking on sign in, and validating all the elements are available on the web page, right? So this is what I have written in my first test case, in my first script. In my second script, I'm navigating to the second module of my application. Let's say I'm navigating to a user registration page. And what I've done in that page, I have like entered some values in the fields available, and I have validated the stuff in the second module. Same thing I have done in the third and fourth script. I have automated the third and fourth module of my website. And in total, I have less than 100 scripts in my entire test suite, right? So on the other hand, I'm reading the test data from the Excel file. I'm generating HTML test report, what all test cases are passed, what all test cases are failed, and also I'm generating logs for all the events as well, right? So if I don't have this JUnit or Java framework, I can have either in my project. If I don't have these frameworks, then I need to execute these test cases one by one using the public static void main method. If you are aware of this method, public static void main. This is the method in Java that whatever we write inside it, we can execute it from the same class. Right. So if I don't have this JUnit or TestNG framework, then I need to execute all these test cases. All these class files will gonna have this main method inside that. Right. And this is the work of JUnit and TestNG. It will also help in generating the HTML reports, what all test cases are passed and what all test cases are failed. Mostly, I mean, JUnit is used by developers and TestNG is used by testers. But there are still some companies who are using JUnit in Selenium, and there are many companies that are using TestNG in Selenium. So you will be learning both JUnit and TestNG over here, so that in interviews, if you are asked questions on JUnit, you will be able to answer. Same in the case with TestNG. Basically, initially, JUnit was designed for developers to do the unit testing. So how they do the unit testing, let's say they have written a piece of code, and in that piece of code, they want to test the code that they have written. Let's say they have created a method for addition. They have created a function for addition. In that function, they are passing two values, A plus B, right? So in order to test that particular method, they create another code, right, which enters some negative values, some positive values, some alphabetical values, some alphanumerical values in order to test that method they have created, right? So what all test cases that are passed, they'll get a result as passed, and what all are failed, they get a result as failure. So every result will be maintained in an HTML report. And same thing we are going to do over here. So whatever code or whatever script that we're going to write in order to automate our website, if it fails at a particular event, then it will be reported inside an HTML report. And if it successfully passed, then it will be reported as well in the HTML report. So at last, it will going to show what all test cases are passed and what all test cases are failed. And this whole concept, where the data is derived from Excel file, is known as a data-driven automation framework. So again, automation framework is not a tool, is not a component that you can design. It's only, it's not a component that you can install. It's only a concept that you need to design. And if in case you are reading a data from an Excel file, it's known as a data-driven framework. In case you are assigning your keywords as well inside the Excel file, that is known as a keyword-driven framework. And the combination of both data-driven and keyword-driven is known as a hybrid framework. So these are purely Java frameworks that you will be designing in core Java itself. And if I talk about the architecture of the framework, so this is one of the frameworks that I have implemented in my project. So this is basically architecture of a data-driven framework. So you will be learning how to implement all these frameworks one by one. Right, each and everything you see over here, each and everything you have to design it by your own. Right, so you'll be learning all these things over here. Right. So at last, I mean, there are many reasons these days to choose Selenium. The very first thing is that it's open source, so there is no more requirement of costly license. Like there are other paid tools as well available in the market which companies are using. But these days, I mean, companies are really switching to Selenium just because it's completely backed by Google as well. Whatever development that is going on, it's going on by Google end. Plus, it supports major languages, all the operating systems. If you talk about a tool like QTP, QTP only supports VBScript, and VBScript only works on Windows. Whereas Java supports multiple operating systems. Java code can be executed on multiple operating systems like Linux, Windows, Mac. Same is the case with Selenium as well, right? So Selenium is actually the future of functional automation testing, and that's true, right? So this is a small overview of what Selenium is. So you should be knowing now that Selenium is not an automation tool. It's basically a set of components, a set of API. Now, to prove that this is an API, I'll be showing you some more examples as well. But before that, let's start with what are the